Hey, hi. Happy something or other. Uh, it's funny because there is a lunar new year and there's an energetic astrological new year. Um, but this also this still is in a solar new year. The sun is still in its own strange equalizing, doing its thing. But it does mimic presentation. And gives form to expectation in a way, or attempts to, in an idealized way. So there is a lot of, feeling attached to that. But rather than just read for a wheel of the year, I thought it would be an interesting idea to just pull energies for everybody individually. Which is something I have done before and has been very popular, but it can be a little difficult to me, or it was difficult to manage then. So, cheers to trying again. So, for the month of January, what is it emotionally that we will face? What is it that we need to know to be able to take on or face that energy? What tools or advices could we use in the face of these very thick trends and expectations and reasonings for such? So, party on. Let's do that as I fold. Shuffle, not fold. But we will start with Capricorn, because it's still Capricorn season, I think. I'm pretty sure. Although very close to Aquarius season. And I'm tempted to start there, because Aquarians are some of my favorites. But we'll start with Capricorn. Capricorn. Let me not be distracted. Capricorn, January. Okay. Sticky mess. I mean, interesting. Ten of Pentacles on the bottom, Page of Cups at the top. I think that is understanding maybe the vastness of capacity that exists within or inside, or that is maybe unrecognized capacity or capability. But that can also take the form of misused energy as well, which is, I think, why the Page of Cups is reversed, and perhaps even gets in the way. Essentially, gets in the way of getting the bag, as people say, but gets in the way of your own combining of resources and acknowledgement to really pull an idea together. This is also, I think, maybe a sense of overwhelm that, well, the Page of Cups reversed, I think, can be a sense of overwhelm that sort of sweeps you off your feet, and, like, not in a good way, knocks you on your ass, I suppose is a better way to say that. However, I think that it doesn't have to be. In the same way that standing in the ocean or in the waves can strike fear, there can be something very cleansing about the things that it sweeps away, and watching those things sort of disappear and also touch something else entirely. And I think that is maybe the direction toward more Ten of Pentacles kind of energy. Should I be right? Should I be right? Let's see. We ask the literal. We ask the literal quality. Oh, interesting. Huzzah. Yeah, King of Spades, bottom of the deck, I think makes the most of that kind of clearing energy, and rather than take it as a curse, views it as a blessing. And maybe takes great honor in that kind of responsibility. Or, you know, is trying to. Those aren't always the fun tasks, but they are the necessary ones. Whereas this Three of Diamonds, I feel like maybe is, oh, that's far. Maybe is understanding this. This was the King. Perhaps is understanding this in fear of that responsibility or sort of rejection of. That's not necessarily like a flaw, but it is something to investigate in the same way that, you know, like ADHD can sort of immobilize from, you know, tasks or what have you, or you know, various ways in which our body or our brain sort of prohibit or stand in the way of momentum or motion or movement or tasks or productivity in one way or another. Not that that's necessarily the goal, but this is a Capricorn reading, so I suppose that is, isn't it? Or at least their standard or their typical metric. However, Capricorn is very earthbound, and I get this is a large sense of the Ten of Pentacles is earthbound, but the Page of Cups is very emotional, which is also probably why it's inverted. That can feel like it's a not safe space or not the typical metric in which to gauge. And that is a fearful thing. I think this is very much paralysis through fear. However, or escapism through fear. Escapism with fear. Escapism from fear. However, there's a vastness to that Capricornian capacity as well. I think they can excel at many elements and in many facets, which is, I think, the more resourceable factor of what makes Capricorn such a stabilizing element. I hope that gives you some faith that your emotions aren't something that are destabilizing you. In fact, they need to be addressed, or they will continue to sort of rush away at the shoreline or the rock bed of your mental stability. And sort of break away at that sediment the same way that waves crashing against the rock that you think you are will still destroy it. Don't pick fights with yourself, because you know how well that can go. And so I think that January might be a place of a lot of internal conflict that proves to be, or feels like it can be, really debilitating or very halting, and sort of stop you in your tracks. However, I think if you allow the currents of emotions and thought processes to flow and not resist that, that can lead to a more stabilized version of success in yourself into the future. That's as clear as I can be. Party on, Capricorn. Love you very much. Now the Aquarians. The Aquarian realms of the world. You're next, dear. I do foresee perhaps an even larger level up in the advancement of Aquarius, because there are major placements in these planets that will influence this and allow for, I feel like a releasing of the floodgates into the age of Aquarius, but very realistically so. Pluto's gonna change some shit, so thank you for being such strange revolutionaries, Aquarians. Or at the very least aspiring to be. No expectations. Alright, Aquarius. What say you for the month of January? It's January. Interesting. That's funny. Ten of Pentacles, bottom of the deck, again. And the Four of Wands at the top. Okay. I love the Four of Wands, but the Four of Wands is inverted. What's with all this inversion? Okay. Okay. I'll keep you. Okay, this is weird. Again, this Three of Diamonds, but Ten of Hearts, Eight of Hearts. Interesting. Okay, let's see. The Three of Diamonds is the one that fell out, and so there's maybe the surprise of fear for as daring and revolutionary as an age of Aquarius might be. And maybe also why I said that, maybe we're not feeling like we're that revolutionary or like we're that daring, and find ourselves maybe more afraid of those things. But rest assured that there's a large part of you that has been comfortable with change before, or comfortable with change in other ways. And it's also normal to be uncomfortable with those things too, especially as you found stability or predictability or what have you. The Ten of Hearts is also inverted, and that's given me a lot of surprise elements. Retrograde and Mercury retrograde ended, but that does not mean necessarily that the sort of stubbing our toe moments of frustration that exist in those time periods. And with that, a lot of people talk about shadow periods and what have you. I do think there's a lot of traction behind where Mercury is going, and so that can kind of rush us along in maybe places where we slip up. or, you know, lose our footing and maybe Ace of Hearts here, forget the real or the original reason why we took the trips or made the missions or changes that we did in those times. Maybe there's even a fear of losing that sense of heart, because the Four of Wands speaks a lot of creativity, and I think of satisfaction of inner worlds. And so when that's inverted, I feel like there's a way in which we're blocking off imagination or possibility or spontaneity in those circumstances. However, I think those are, you know, like, it's like the fear of falling. And that is scary, but is sometimes more funny than it is tragic or terrifying. And there's a lot of joy and laughter in those experiences. We can't be afraid of feeling or of experiencing through feelings, because that's very much what colors our lives, and really breathes life into them. So consider which direction the wind of your breath is actually taking you. Consider which direction, and if you're walking against wind or being beckoned by billowing winds of your Ace of Hearts kind of desires. Does that make sense, my dear? Interesting. But I mean, it leads to the same place. It leads to a good place. Sometimes we're beating our head against a wall when it really is easier to turn our back to the wind and move with it. So in what ways are you making your life more difficult? Not unbeknownst to you, but unintentionally. And how can we simplify those things? Because, you know, all paths of our heart will still lead us toward home, even if they find themselves in more stubborn positions or temperaments throughout. So don't be too stubborn, and don't be afraid of a little play and a little experimentation. That sounds wild to say an Aquarius would be afraid of that. I hope that helps. Oh, our dear Piscean fish fools. We move, we move forward and deeper into the sea. January arrives for dear Pisces. Spooky. All right, Pisces, what's up? Interesting. I was not expecting that. Okay, Four of Swords and Temperance. What else do you have to say in the literal quality, dear Pisces? Okay. Okay. Four of Swords and Temperance, and beneath that, the Four of Spades and the King of Spades. Again, kind of clearings. Temperance not just being about limitation or self-limitation or addiction or any of that. It is very much also about transformation and the spaces in between, and portal jumping, I suppose, or what is the word I'm looking for? Quantum leaping. There we go. Because of the information stored within these vessels. Go Temperance. Carrying all of that knowledge. Go you. It also delineates, I think, very much to what that creation consists of, and what we create within safe space for of Swords. But again, inverted. So what is it about our space that is not grounded, not protected, not safe? And that's not necessarily even just your, messy home or the dishes not done or what have you. Sometimes it's the excavation of the clutter in our pockets, of the clutter in our minds, of the clutter in our closets, and our metaphorical cerebral closets of burdens and shames and guilts and what have you, or doubts or repressions or guilts. That is fertile ground for a B&E of the spiritual world, and that is no bueno, not ideal or what we want. But Temperance can take you out, or will. An angel of lifting and of quantum jumping can very much take us out of those places and upright that Four of Swords, which is a good momentum to have. However, let's not pigeonhole ourselves in, again, as we tend to do in these Western rituals of nonsensical timing. I think that can be, Four of Spades, about pulling the trigger too soon. Which is funny, because I joked that New Year's Eve was really just a celebration about premature ejaculation. And I stand by that. I absolutely stand by that. And a very, very poor climax, or brief climax. I suppose that would make it anticlimactic. But so, yeah, I feel like an easy way to visualize this too is how we can be overbearing in seeking, whether that be, on dates and sort of pushing too much, or, inquiring too much, or being love bomby or whatever. But also very much just like anticipating the beat. Sometimes that's when we're just, off because we've been sitting and waiting, and it doesn't flow naturally because of that. The King of Spades is honorable and responsible in taking on duties of self so that this Temperance can be cleansed and organized or something. Organized isn't necessarily I guess that's the best word. It's like everything's just kind of where it needs to be in its strongest points. So yeah, I guess it would be an organized structure, a crystalline structure. And the King of Spades is clearing space for that, yet again, but clearing space for the creation that is possible with the Temperance card. Possible, not promised. And that is a big, big difference. Not that that's meant to sound like foreboding, but the Four of Swords is one of my favorite cards, and it's probably one of the most safe and integral feelings that can precede exploration. So in what ways do we cultivating gratitude. In what ways do we cultivate, safe space in some way, shape, or form within our hearts, within our minds, within our home? And that is very much cultivated with gratitude for shots missed and hit, for what is had in the moment, and for the joy of the present rather than what's off in the distance. But yeah, that's very much a way to cultivate within that. And that can be motivating for the clearing as well, because with gratitude, you're not afraid of lack, because there is always more coming and there is always enough. So, party on. Stick with that. Sorry. Aries, you fiery motherfucker. How are you? Let's find out. How can we help advise our dear Aries during the month of January? Let's see. How fierce. We're sticking with it. Okay. This is interesting because this is the first one where the bottom of the deck is inverted, which was the Two of Cups. So the zeitgeist of the reading essentially is a disconnect. I want to say an inability to communicate, or like a disconnect in communication. With the Strength card, this doesn't necessarily have to just be with other people. However, when we fail to communicate with ourselves, oftentimes that is the way that it shows, is with other people. That is a way in which I often remind myself of empathy and understanding, is that the displays that people put on of their inability to communicate or like effectively or to be able to deal with their emotions and show some sort of emotional intelligence or maturity and trigger moments. While it is really upsetting, I find empathy and understanding, and that shows that they don't know how to do that for themselves, which is very sad, which is painful, and like, damn, hard, like, sucks. So it does kind of remind me to be softer in those moments, which is maybe the only instance of softness with these cards present, because Strength is the other one present and upright. However, delineates to an 11. There's an infinity sign in it that's very reflective. It does take softness to tame the lion. but there's something about a reflection of self in the eyes of an animal, or in the eyes of who you're discussing, you know, like looking your dog in the eye, focus, contact, that can reveal a lot. And again, you know, I think you can see the pain that somebody's been through in their eyes. Granted, that is also psychopathy to some degree, you know, mugshots sometimes, often, will also look very in pain. And so that's, again, a reflection of empathy and understanding. But what is it that this reflection serves, and have we broken it to save ourselves from the pain of having to acknowledge it? Because I feel like this Two of Cups is a very severance of softness. Is very much I feel like unrooting. Like I just kind of see them like being ripped up from the ground, like root and all. And that is a display of strength, for sure. And hidden displays of strength, I think, are maybe something to be more valued and more focused on. And by that, I mean the display of restraint is, I think, a very hidden display of strength. The display of calm in a storm is a very hidden display of strength. Very much antithetical to those displays, or the ripping up of the roots. And I think that there's also something to be said about looking fear head on. That is very much a strength thing. A display of strength that is, I guess, would be considered non-action is also not backing down. You know, not bowing your head, and ways in which that becomes very important. And ways in which we will not sacrifice our own integrity, because this Two of Cups, again, doesn't have to deal necessarily with other people, but it does have to deal with self in the ways that we sacrifice our own integrity for one reason or another. Is this burnout? Actually, probably. Probably. Is that what I just read through the long way around? I mean, I'm sure all of that applies to many circumstances, but yeah, quite honestly, maybe that's exactly what this is. Oh, something just flew out very beautifully. Let's see. Bam. 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 Okay. All right. Beneath the Two of Cups, the King of Hearts, which is very much asking for who you want. It's literally this homeboy with a little sign that says more brains. Now, so what, that takes a lot of strength and bravery too. What is it that you need or require to allow for a little bit of softness or rest? Is that more time? Is that more space? Is that a little meditation? Queen of Wands underneath the strength is absolutely, because we're not giving ourselves time for that. We're not giving ourselves time to enter a circle, enter our own safe space circle without fear of like leaving behind other tasks, or without fear of like falling behind, I suppose. Because the Queen of Wands is also inverted, and I feel like that's anti-creativity, but not necessarily being able to outlet, maybe having no outlet for that. And the Seven of Wands fell out, which I think is very much not enough, never enough, because it's also inverted. So it's not necessarily the joy of retail therapy, but it is options and tasks and to-dos, and Seven of Clubs, Seven of Wands. Yeah, it's very much too many things, too many options, the to-do list growing. When it's upright, that can feel like paths are opening up. When it's inverted, that can feel like you're being buried alive by things that you have to deal with or do. And that freaking sucks. Make space for your softness. Make space so that you can allow for clear skies, because this also has to do with a lot of emotional and a lot of creative energy. And we cannot create when we're blocked by the boiling of our waters, because we're where all of our emotions are pent up. That's very much, you know, like if we're boiling, we're creating smoke, and that fogs kind of our perceptions of things. And the strength requires clear skies to navigate efficiently. So take some time, take a breath, and don't be afraid to ask for what you need when you need help. Because I'm sure that if strength is where you are now, you've offered so much that there's bound to be a surplus of resources and people that you could ask for help if need be. Don't convince yourself that that is not true, which is very much this Two of Cups inverted. Almost, you know, kind of the emotionally abusive relationship, but within ourselves, where we kind of cut down our own dreams. Damn, heavy, Aries. Fucking A. Party on. I wish you well. That is heavy and not a fun feeling, but you got this. You always do. Taurus. Taurus. My dear Taurus. Up next. No rush. We're all here. Grazing. And if anything, I feel like your ability to take care of yourself when you need and slow down when you need is something Aries could definitely benefit from. Yeah. All right, my dear Taurus, happy January. Ooh, lovely. Sorry. Knight of Pentacles and the Sun. The Sun. This very much has to do with that reflective property we were talking about earlier. However, this is very much an illuminated reflection on like real good lighting. And like, this isn't the best lighting, but you know, it helps. You know, a really well lit selfie. Sorry, we're gonna pull some numbers and then we're gonna dive in. There's a lot of flowers here. Even that aren't meant to be here, there's a lot of flowers that are just a part of the things that we're close to. Okay. 10 of Wands, 5 of Spades, 10 of Clubs, 5 of Spades, whatever, same energy. Knight of Pentacles, inverted, and the Sun. The Knight of Pentacles is a beautiful card, even though it's inverted. And I think that's very much because we've convinced ourselves somehow that, that we don't have something good to offer, or maybe only feel like we have burdens to offer, or are feeling, are questioning or questioning our belief that we have something good to offer to the world, to ourselves, to relationships. And yet there is still love, compassion, beauty, growth, all of these beautiful things here, and very much shielded by that offering and that light in general. But because it's so close to us, perhaps we fail to recognize it right away. And sometimes that inner world of I am not enough, or I do not give enough, or what do I really have to offer, can really obfuscate and occlude. I don't know what the word, obfuscate our own ability to see light in the world or outside of us, because we can't see it inside of us. Those moments never last forever, and it is very much something that I think the Knight of Pentacles is brokenhearted when he feels that way. But eventually is reminded of his reflection of the sun and how he can catch those things. The sun being here is again that reflective property, but it's reflection of self, and it's a reflection of expansive self, because it's about seeing you in the stars, in the water, and that very much touches everything. So maybe this is a card of like feeling hopeless in a world of judgment, or feeling hopeless in a world of ills. Like, am I the only good knight here? Am I the only good soldier? And while, yes, the world can be very dark, that does, again, sort of cloud our vision. And, we start to see all of the things that we think are wrong with us, rather than all of the things that we want to actualize on, which are the bright sides, the silver linings, and all of the pros of the con artist world. It's mental vision. And I think that's something to investigate, because it's worthy of creating. I think that's maybe something hard to see in times like this, but is again worthy of investigation and forsake of creating. It is a space amidst many paths that takes on many lights, that takes on many doorways and windows and opportunities, so that you can create like a bright room of, but look at this. This is a good thing. This is a hopeful thing. This is what I have to offer. And this is what can benefit not just me, but the world. The Ten of Wands underneath this Knight of Pentacles, or Ten of Clubs underneath this Knight of Pentacles, I think is maybe, it's also inverted, is the ways in which we can sort of pick apart our past, and that can kind of sabotage our progress or our future, because we tend to dwell on those pains rather than forgive ourselves, or I mean, forgive yourself for any aspect of it. Saying something, not saying something, doing something, not doing something, not doing enough, doing too much. It can go on forever like that. So rather than constantly turn around and look back, how do we move forward with that energy so that we can see and explore and create with that, with a brighter light, that we do not rain on our own parade. So I feel like that's very much this Knight of Pentacles too. It's a sensey energy. Don't be your own self-saboteur for sake of guilt and shame. It is a Western concept to keep us in self-loathing. So shorten the self-hate cycle and do things that feel fun and visionary, and allow yourself to actualize on those things instead, rather than dwell on who you were in a shadow self, or what you think is. Because the Knight of Pentacles is also too damn hard on himself. It's hard to be a noble motherfucker. But I hope that helps. Gemini. Mighty fine. Ooh, buddy. Oh, Gemini. Isn't like Jupiter moving into Gemini or something like that? Which is big wins, big carrying wins, big ideas. Perhaps even bigger questions about those ideas. Maybe that's also got to do with the pros and cons that we were talking about with Taurus. Let's see. My dear Gemini, what say you for January? What need you, my dear? What need you? Interesting. Well, that's actually really funny. Hold on. Okay. Bottom of the deck is the Lovers, which is also a card that like symbolizes Gemini. So what, are you not feeling yourself? There's 2 sixes here, and one is inverted. So 69. I'm kidding. But yeah, kind of. And also not at all. We're going with it. And you know what? Since you're just so needy. Okay. All right. Interesting. 6 of Swords and the Lovers inverted. The Lovers is also an identifier card. So like I said, maybe not really feeling yourself, or maybe stepping into an entirely new version of yourself. Maybe an unexpected one, or one that you had not realized that you needed to portray or you know, present to the world, or, you know, are surprised in maybe some identifying factors. Maybe that's diagnosis. Maybe that's finding out something new that you wanted out of yourself, out of a job, out of a relationship, or, you know, new hobbies, something or other. 10 of Hearts is underneath that. So I feel like this is something that's surprising and also kind of bites you in the ass. Surprising and really unexpected. Like, growth can come in very unexpected ways. Sense of self can come in very unexpected ways, oftentimes in the most vulnerable places, which are not places that we willingly put ourselves or choose to. And I say that because the Six of Swords is also the first card, and it's very protective, is very much about like setting boundaries and like, no, don't touch that. Like, it's very, very, very much a like guard up kind of card. Whereas the Lovers is not. And the Lovers inverted could very well be even more so, and to detriment, and how unavailable we are to those things, and where that also prevents us from being able to show that kind of affection to ourselves, even, or show up for ourselves in the kind of ways that we would anticipate emotionally when you are connected to somebody, or something, or whatever. Beneath the Six of Swords is the Two of Diamonds, inverted. There's fear protection. Is that of a past version of self? Or is that... Yeah, I feel like it's to protect yourself from past experiences, but failing to recognize that you're not necessarily that person anymore. Nor are you maybe navigating in those same circumstances. So kind of foolish to guard so tightly or deeply, without giving yourself the grace that you and your circumstances are in fact very different. And so you can sort of cleanse those bonds so that you can create anew. And that doesn't necessarily have to mean anybody, but that does absolutely impact the ways in which we allow ourselves to connect even with ourselves or with the things that we find joy in. The cards that fell out, the Ace of Diamonds, interesting, and the Five of Hearts. So there's wishes, there's a kite, but it's also inverted, and the Five of Hearts is not. I get the sense that this ace is very much a wish that did not come true, or a wish that was snuffed out, more accurately, and a sort of disbelief in magic. I feel like this is like the equivalent to when people say fairies aren't real. A fairy loses its wings. In fact, I don't know how to take that back, actually. A fairy is real, a fairy is real, a fairy is real. And the Five of Hearts, I think, is very much the ways in which we plot and plan, or potentially let life pass us by. This is very much like, he's like speaking to a skeleton, and it's a creative space in your heart, but I feel like that's also maybe where we can face our own egos, or fear that kind of facing our own egos, because I think very much that that's what this conversation is. And it's so funny because that's so clear, and I don't think I've ever gotten that from this card per se, more so than the creation or the slow cooking or what have you. But none of that is slow cooking in this. This is very much like a fierce conversation with the ego and face to face. And again, these reflections come up again, and what ways we are projecting. I feel like this is very much lukewarm rather than, slow searing. And that is where this Ten of Hearts and this Lovers are also inverted. So, are we lukewarm for fear? Are we lukewarm for fear of connection? You know, why are we so guarded? Why are we so protective? Are we defensive? And in what ways can we check that fear, hold space for ourselves, you know, actualize this Eight of Diamonds and this Lovers so that we can believe in ourselves, therefore believe in other things that are bigger than ourselves, and create with that momentum and love the many splendid thing. Yeah, that's a hard place to be too. And I feel like a very insecure place to be. But there are always ways through that. And I think, you know, in the hustle and bustle of like new, and what are you going to do? It's very easy to feel insecure about where you are, how much you've done, or what it looks like, rather than what it feels like, and if we're allowing ourselves to feel that. So, you know, I wish you well. I wish you softness, and that brings a little bit of joy, so that you can allow yourself to feel pleasure. Ooh, buddy. Also, so heavy. So heavy. What a month. All right. Who's up? Cancer. Dear Cancer. Dear Cancer, what can we know for the month of January? What do you expect forward to? Okay. I think Cancer is going to make some big changes and some very new personal choices. We've got the Three of Cups and the Fool. The Fool, bottom of the deck, and inverted. So this is very much like a pivot point. Maybe altogether new decisions or new identity choices, which is really great and really powerful. However, do that because it's been a long time, or like because this is an inspiring path, not because this is like the time to do it. Again, this isn't a astrologically significant time for anything new. So be gentle with yourself in that context. The Three of Cups is a very like high-powered creative card, but I feel like can be very like go, make, you know, productivity, out of passion, yes, and inspiration, yes, rather than like industrialization. But that can still, if exhausted at the beginning, that can still feel like you've depleted yourself when it starts to get hard. Or when things get unexpected, you know, kind of in the ways that we'll like, you know, lean really heavy into like a new hobby of some sort, and then the second it gets hard, we're like, never mind, I can't do this, and you never pick it back up again. That's very much what this is. And it does not have to be. It's a very, very like positive energy. I'm just saying don't get caught up in that. because this is pivotal and transformational, and the Fool is a beautiful card, and the Three of Cups is a hell of a power source. So party fucking on. I feel like this could have the same effect of like overwatering plants because you want it to grow and you're impatient, versus, you know, love and attention and abundance given to a journey so that you can take that walk when things really are in bloom and things really are flourishing, rather than, again, rushing yourself. Okay. 4 of clubs, 9 of diamonds. Oh, can't say anything. Dope. The Fool is a very new journey. The 9 of diamonds lends itself to that journey with gratitude and appreciation for adventure and excitement and all of the ways that this is a stimulating, new, fun, joyous thing, and that with which you already have. If you think about it like moving to a new place, on one hand you're leaving so much behind and you're losing so much, but the 9 of diamonds with the Fool is very much like, but all of the new experiences and all of the new things you're going to be able to get, and the new space you're going to be able to create, and the new friends you're going to make, and the new ways you're going to be able to invite people over, and da-da-da-da-da. That kind of vibe. All of the new options that are available to you with whatever that is. The 3 of Cups and the 4 of diamonds that are present. And like, even in saying that, where this applies to maybe substance abuse or addiction, rather than depriving and like, putting all of your energy into focusing on what you can't do, focus on all of the time and options that gives you for what you can do. That makes everything so much more comfortable and such a more positive process to lean into. There's nothing comfortable really about sobering up or detoxing in any way, shape, or form. However, putting your energy into focusing on your options, expanding rather than contracting makes a big difference. I say that also with an easy way for me to apply that, outside of substance issues, is being a vegetarian, and the ways in which when I was younger, and the perceptions of lack that stirred up, or, you know, all the things you can't have versus all of the things that you can, and all of the options that you have, and all of the colors, and all of the, you know, healthy options, and, you know, easy options, and quick options, and sweet options, and what have you. And it really did broaden horizons and expand the world, and made it such an easier process, such an easier life change. So that can be applied in many places. So, you know, take what you want and take what you need and leave what you don't. The 3 of Cups as fiery, not fiery, as because it kind of is. It kind of is. It's very much like a tornado kind of energy. A tornado of creation. But along with this 4 of Clubs is, I think, again, let's not get swept up in the rushing or the, you know, let's not short or circuit. Let's not power surge. Let's take things one step at a time, and small circles, and, you know, all of those patient, mindful things, which, again, can also be easily and very helpfully added to. I think with substance abuse issues, a lot of people will say it's about today, not about everything else. Like sometimes the easiest way to take that journey is, rather than I'm sober now, you know, I don't use now, or, you know, clean or whatever it is people say, like I'm not drinking today, I'm not da-da-da today, I'm not whatever it is today, because I can make it through this 24 hours, and that is going to turn into another day, and then that's going to turn into another day. But presence really can expand in that way, and very quickly before you know it, and in a very surprising way. So lean into that and let it turn your world upside down, because you might just see things differently. Leo, one of my favorites. Oh my. I guess I shouldn't say anybody's my favorite, but we've got a history. Leo, my love. What do we need for the month of January? Okay. Okay. Both are inverted. But I feel like, again, that is not necessarily a bad thing. Maybe it's all right if we turn our world upside down a little bit. We have the Emperor and the Four of Swords, bottom of the deck. So maybe the things that make us feel safe, or that make us feel seen, or that make us feel heard, are under evaluation, and can perhaps afford some change, or maybe changing of some of the goalposts. Maybe that's restructuring our boundaries or our expectations on a given project or on ourselves, let alone in the ways that we relate to others. But maybe we need to give ourselves more space. I think perhaps we've been too constricting on ourselves, and there's a lot to feel. And that is very true of what's going on in the world, and the ways in which that we have to mask or repress, or hush, or, you know, silence, or censor ourselves in some way, shape, or form. And that is not conducive to emotional growth, development, or security. In fact, that feels a lot more like a weight is on our chest, and all of that repression does lead to explosiveness. I have Leo and Chiron, so the explosiveness is very potential. It has a lot of potential. I think the Emperor also reiterates that perhaps changing of boundaries, or you know, giving ourselves new circumstances to flourish. Perhaps we haven't been giving ourselves the space that we need to execute ideas, or fully emote, or any of the things that we need to. In what ways does the Leo mask? Which is quite surprising, as they are very in your face. But I think perhaps it goes under noticed that I think Leos are expected to be so so in your face. They're expected to be to sort of save face constantly. That can be really exhausting, and that in and of itself is sort of like begging for you to mask constantly, because everybody expects you to be, you know, radiant and raging and beautiful and strong and all of these things. But that doesn't leave room for softness. That's a lot of dictation, really, kind of tyrannical. And I think there are ways in which we can choose differently and offer ourselves a little bit more grace with structure, or offer ourselves a little bit more of a shoulder to lean on within ourselves, because that is sort of simultaneously both. Like, you allowing yourself to be vulnerable and break down also says a lot about your ability to be very strong and very bold and very daring simultaneously. And I think that's very much like the emperor is like the father of few words that finally says, like, I love you, I'm proud of you, in this kind of energy, not when it's inverted. But it is inverted. So how can we do that for ourselves? The Queen of Clubs underneath it, and Two of Spades underneath the Four of Swords, which I think is very much about making an active choice, an active direction to see things in a different perspective, and an active choice to slow yourself down and change your perspective. The Queen of Wands is meditating, but like all of those things also come in various forms, whether it's, you know, crocheting or sewing or tai chi or qigong. It doesn't necessarily have to look like any one thing, but whatever it does, it is. Sometimes anger management says count to 10 instead. And I think maybe that's got a bit to do with where this is leaning. Not necessarily that you yourself have anger management issues, but how is it that we can afford ourselves some grace and slow ourselves down so that we are not our own dictator or our own tyrant. Bam. Go Emperor. And Leo can be really, I don't know, not vicious, but like, again, Spitfire. So sometimes that Spitfire is not something you need to spit at yourself. Oh, just out here flying. Virgo. Another favorite. Have only loved them. Virgo, how would you handle this January? And how can we help you? Okay. Okay, I am super into this. Alright. Knight of Swords, reverse, bottom of the deck. And I feel like that is very much maybe where we will find ourselves in a new environment, in a new setting, in a new world that we maybe aren't necessarily for sure how to navigate. But that's any new experiences. Like, think, like orientations and what have you. You're like, oh my god, I don't know where my classes are. Like, getting lost on the first day of school. However, as scary as that can feel, the Knight of Swords would do well to trust what they know, because what you know has gotten you this far, and all of that is a consistent resource, constantly available, that will forever and ever and ever color uniquely the way that you navigate any new situation, and nobody will able to do it like you. Nobody will be able to do it like you. And the Six of Diamonds underneath that is very much a good thing. That's very much the ways in which we can naturally bullseye it, even if it does feel like an entirely new setting and scenario. So have a little faith in yourself, have a little faith in your integrity, have a little faith in your fucking knowledge, and the space that takes up in your life, because it will serve as a wind that carries you toward where you need to be always. As scary as that is, it does require a lot of trust. Luckily, it requires trust in you. The Four of Swords and the Seven of Spades, I think, is very much on maybe a more positive side of this card than we've seen in the previous readings. And it is upright. This is very much the alchemical home that we've created, the home that we have created, and the longevity that space serves sufficiently. That is very much a truth, and yet still very much afraid of what this Knight of Swords doesn't know, and whether or not this Six of Diamonds will even make its shot or is stable enough of structure. But sixes are perfection. Sixes are perfection. So trust that, even if it feels, especially going from the 7 to the 6, even if it feels like you're taking step backs, trust in the process and trust in the natural perfection of the ways in which, yes, it's not perfect, but shit works out. Shit works out uniquely for us in the ways that we need it to when we trust ourselves. It may not necessarily be what you wanted, but it will always be what you need it to. And I think that very much is where this Four of Swords can return and find safety even in those moments. So continue to hold on to that space in the ways that it is as comforting or, as expansive as it needs to be. Both can exist in the same. And that will continue to serve as a solid point of recalibration and of solace in stressful times, so that again you can sort of like rest for war, and then you rest and you trust yourself and you remind yourself of all the things that you know, and then you go out with integrity and swords drawn. That was very much this energy. I'm not sure necessarily what you will be up against or what that sword needs to be drawn in or of, but it does seem like a moment of faith in yourself and taking a chance on yourself, and trusting that you have created enough security and stability in your mind and in your environment that something so small can't throw off the uprightness of your integrity and your sense of self. If that has to do with the relationship, I hope it doesn't, and don't ever let anybody thwart your sense of self, because that can be a very disembodying way to live, and I do not wish that on anybody. Libra. Ooh. I wonder how annoying this heater is for all of you. But I don't know if you can even hear it, actually. It's just loud to me. Maybe. Libra, Libra, Libra. Isn't this where the sun is now? Well, it's for January. Ooh, oh, okay. Alright, Libra, bear with me. We're gonna get down and dirty with this one. Libra. Okay. Okay. Alright. I do feel like this is also like really macro and micro. I'm pretty sure the sun is in Libra now. Libra's also very much a justice sign. It's very much about speaking our truths. A lot of us feel repressed and silenced and censored. We have the Nine of Cups and the Nine of Swords at the bottom of the deck. Bear with me. I don't think that's because we're moving into trauma or, you know, foretelling of necessarily the worst things and bad luck just for you. But I do think that's very much a mental energy and a mental spiral of all the things that we need to do and how we can get lost in that. And that in and of itself can be debilitating because this Queen of Swords underneath it, or Spades underneath it, inverted is very much, I think, the ways in which we know what steps we have to take, but it's a lot more effort to do them than we realize. And so, like, it's when we know the things that we have to do and we continue to just ignore them. I think that's also very true of the world, like, on a small scale. That's, you know, I need to do my dishes in the ways that we binge scroll or, you know, binge watch or doom scroll instead. Or, you know, I need to stop drinking coffee so much and, you know, continue to obsess with our favorite Starbucks order or what have you. in real time macro sense, I think that's also very much the ways in which we're frustrated with these bugle horns of justice that are not sounding right. And the frustrations of, you know, knowing that A, B, and C is the problem, but, you know, not having the infrastructure or the resources to be able to dismantle that, confront it, or take it down. And that is very demotivating. However, if that's all it takes to throw off the cause, then there is need for a deeper inspiration to search or to unearth, to motivate these things. The Nine of Cups preceding that, I think, is very much, and with the Six of Hearts. Is that nostalgia for the past? Or I feel like that nostalgia for the past and maybe the easier that things have been, if ever, or a maybe deep internalized ideation that has proven to be frustrating. Libras can also be very, you know, artistic and romantic and you know, have this idealization of beauty, and then are faced with war. And that can be very difficult on the psyche. However, perhaps that's meant to shake you awake, and meant to dispel what you would deem, you know, imperfections of the self. It's calling to draw attention to. And with this card, much like I feel about dark energies or demons or what have you, rather than it be a card of like scary fear, they're coming after you. No, they're begging you to listen. They're begging to be heard. And that is perhaps vocalizing aspects of ourselves that we have repressed, for fear of being too beautiful or extravagant or too idealized or what have you. We're never going to be able to touch that kind of wholeness, this Nine of Cups and this Six of Hearts, if we don't believe in it and idealize it. It has to be imagined to be possible. So I think if there's guilt attached to this idealization as if it's false or could never be, it only could never be because you're saying that, or because you are cutting it off at that, and sort of avoiding allowing it more breath time or air time. And you don't necessarily have to do that. In fact, rely on it. I would say lean on it when moments where this Nine of Swords becomes a little bit more clear or stronger or too heavy in coming moments. I hope that helps. Whoa, okay, Scorpio, darkness. Scorpio, dear Scorpio, where are you this January? Okay. A lot of sixes going on. But we've got the Six of Wands here and the Page of Wands inverted preceding. So I do feel like maybe this is a jumping into maybe a little bit more free roaming area with inspiration. The Page of Wands may be feeling like lazy and uninspired or unmotivated, and the Six of Wands suddenly being like, oh wow, where did all of this come from? I feel fucking great. Which, you know, the illusion of feeling unmotivated or uninspired or what have you to create comes a lot with how much you're resting. I remember that when the pandemic first hit and we were all locked away, I definitely, absolutely slept a ton and didn't do shit for a while. But then I realized that all of a sudden I was doing everything that I wanted to do and painting a ton and all of this stuff. And I was like, shit, I thought that I was just lazy and uninspired. No, I was working all the fucking time and didn't have time for it. So that's very much, I think, where this Page of Wands inverted moves into this Six of Wands energy, is understanding that you needed energy to build these things and you did not have any. And that is okay. You will. And it will remind you of what it feels like to be you. And it will remind you of just how productive you're capable of being and just how strong and smart and intelligent and all of these things, all of the things that you want to be grateful for. It'll be interesting to see. It'll be fulfilling to see almost like creation amassed. And that's not necessarily like even just in what you can prove. Sometimes that's just the satisfaction of looking back and seeing how much progress has been made, and just how much, maybe not that you've taken for granted, but didn't notice that there was to be grateful for, because you had all of these, you know, ideas and all of these, you know, avenues of creation or respect or, you know, whatever it is that you thought you lacked, and look, it's already growing. And so that, I can imagine feeling very relieving, and feeling very exciting and inspiring and invigorating. But much like I said with previous readings too, don't get carried away. And that doesn't mean necessarily that, that a continued sense of this Six of Wands necessarily comes easy. Or this Nine of Diamonds, for instance, or at all. Gratitude doesn't necessarily come easy either. So the more that we can invest into understanding what that transition is from these energies, the more we will save ourselves from finding ourselves in this Page of Wands inverted energy, feeling uninspired and like we have nothing to offer, or unable to see our light in the future. So enjoy this time, write it out, and harness the moments in between, because they will come in handy later. So that you can inspire and create. Thank you, Scorpio. With your penetrative lights, we need it. I guess the pay attention to the foreplay. That's all the middle ground, middle energy in it. Ain't it? Alrighty. Last but not least, here we are at the end of the circle. Our dear Sagittarius, party on. Sagittarius, my forward-thinking philosopher. How are you? Where will we be? What should we need this January? Okay. 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 Shit's about to get real. I do think that there's something to be said about honesty and being true to yourself. Sagittarius, January. Bam. Ooh, okay. Four of Swords, top, the sun at the bottom. Okay, hear me out. I do feel like this has a lot more to do about not hiding from yourself, or not not people pleasing, not masking for people, not allowing yourself to be molded by expectations, and become a product of nurture over nature. In the sense that, like, what is it becoming something that you don't feel is integral, or wasn't you to begin with, or isn't who you want to be? Take off the mask. Who are you when you're at home and nobody is watching? And who are you when you are on stage and everybody's watching? And what is the pathway between those two? What is the bonding bridge between those two? And do you feel that? Because if you don't, that would explain a total disunite. Or if you're feeling specifically disconnected from self or anything like that. But the more you find that connection, the more you build stable walls within your heart, your home, your peace, your space. And with this Four of Swords, you can be strong and can be vulnerable. You can protect your home and also create a safe space of hearth and what have you. The Jack of Diamonds, I feel like, is also a card of very much longing or nostalgia, and that can, I think, very much lean itself again toward this people-pleasing aspect. What versions of ourselves do we mask up as to leave our safe space? And who are we when we take that mask off? Why don't we show that? The Six of Hearts inverted is, I think, maybe a fear of being unloved if we show our raw and true selves. And that's maybe because there's so many aspects to any given person that it's hard to know if all of it can be accepted, especially when we don't even fully accept ourselves. How could we expect anybody else to? So I do feel like this is very much a sort of uncloaking time for Sagittarius, so that they can safely step into this sun energy and step into the light, and sort of believe that they are beautiful. I get the feeling that this is very much like vampire with light, but finds out that they're not actually allergic to sunlight. They were just afraid of it and actually look really beautiful in it. So allow yourself to enjoy that and to find connection in that, rather than burning bridges and being wanton and forlorn over them, which maybe is, you know, just because of the expectation of, you know, being really intense or really emotional. We don't have to be that either. You don't have to be anything but you, homie. And that is a beautiful thing and a blinding thing when it is true, like a raw angel. And so I hope that you let that light just kind of flourish, and don't mold yourself to be anything that you don't want to be this coming month or year. Or that you don't mold yourself into something that you don't know if is you, but looks cool or what have you, you know, like we can get very caught up in the ideas of all the things we could have been or could be rather than grateful for who we are. And that is not a mode of gratitude or self-acceptance. So don't get caught up in that either, even though it feels or looks like it's about bettering yourself. It's really kind of doing the opposite. Yeah, cool. Bam, party on. That is the whole wheel of the signs. And for the month of January, I guess I should let's just do a general zeitgeist, eh? General for the month of January, all signs and all sides and all signals and all stars. Now what? Now what? Okay, my love, last advice for all signs for the month of January. On top of the emotion themes we've already seen, where does this go? How do we get there? Woo! Okay. This is a very confidence-building month. The Ten of Wands is very much the intensity of the many options, the many structures of standards and expectations that are weighing down upon us. You know, the weight and pressure of goals. The air is thick. There's a lot of pressure going right now. Let us not fail to remember what we offer as is. And that it is something that is very real and very potent as is already. The King of Pentacles offers structure and stability and wealth and truth and light and nourishment in a lot of ways. So we don't have to get trapped under the rubble. Nor do we have to wait for a savior. In fact, we are our own. And I think that's very important here. Please don't get caught waiting for somebody. And this 5 of clubs and 3 of spades. Oof. Yeah, don't get caught waiting for somebody to save you. In fact, you have to make moves to be your own integral self. This is very much somebody waiting for, isn't it the Tin Man that needs a heart? Like, and he waits for somebody to kind of come along. No, this is Tin Man running toward his heart because he needs it to live. And needs it to be who he wants to see in the mirror. So, you know, very much running to your goals and chasing your dreams, but because you believe that they're worth it. In the same ways that we chase the things that are not worth our chasing. So that's very much, I think, going to be a lesson learned in this, in where we apply those sort of wanton energies towards something greater or we sever them entirely because we're realizing that it maybe stems from a deeper, you know, root need or acknowledgement or reaction to something else entirely. So I think a lot will be revealed and a lot of pressure can be lifted. But this is an opportunity to very much turn to your inner world and see just how it is that you want it to reflect. Because you're worth it, not because you're trying to be worth it. Because if you go into this trying to be worth it, you're just going to find reasons why you're not. But if you go into this knowing that you are capable and worthy and all of these things, or believing it, or at least pretending to, or trying to, then you'd be surprised how that can conspire to something much more fulfilling, or that feels more provable or believable or worthwhile. Allow yourself to be surprised by yourself. It's a lovely thing. Yeah, okay. Happy January. Happy energy day. Happy things and other things. And yeah, you know, happy new time to be alive. It's a heavy time. Let us not be overwhelmed by that which does not align with our hearts at this moment, so that our heart can in fact force or push or pull power to align with it instead. Yeah, it's 2024, motherfuckers, which is pretty cool. Who would have thunk? It's gonna be a wild year, so you know, I'll be here for you and with you all along this crazy ride. Mwah! Until next time, I hope that your mind space reflects your heart space, reflects your kinesthetic space and the space that you take up, and may it continue to do so. Party on, and I will see you sooner than later.